Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll be taking a deep dive into the VIGILORS for the Stormcast Eternals. The arrows making another appearance as we head over to the table, and in this video we'll be going through everything you need to know about the VIGILORS, having a look at the models, the lore, taking a close look at the Warscroll and abilities, then looking at different tactics and combinations you can play out on the table before assessing the points versus performance. This is part of a new series I've put together for Age of Sigmar, looking at different factions, units within those factions, and I'll be also putting some videos together to help you get started in Age of Sigmar and develop your game. Before we look at the War Scrolls and the tactics combining with other units on the table, let's focus on the miniatures themselves and have a look at these awesome models that come in a box set of 10. The VIGILORS I use in my army, and there's a whole host of poses for them. Lots of heads, you can have them all with helmets or without. I chose to go mostly with unhelmeted models in my entire army as much as I could. I used a super simple paint scheme, dry brushing and coiling a green shade over the top before picking out all the details and then doing a nice autumn base. All up I did 3,000 points of the Stormcast Eternals, and it took me 23 hours of work, so I was really happy with the time for the effect at the end. So I got them up ready to play very quickly. But you can see there's so many cool dynamic poses with these. I think they're really great, slimline from a lot of the old Stormcast Eternal models, and yeah, these really appeal to me. The Thunderstrike models are just really cool. Let's grab the battle tome for Stormcast Eternals next. We'll have a look at the Warscroll and just a little bit of lore. Tiny bit actually, just this one little paragraph, which really sums up what they're all about and what they do on the battlefield. So this gives you a good idea of their role. It tells us that clad in Thunderstrike armour, VIGILORS are skilled archers who fiercely scout out a path for their brethren. Their arrows conjure brief flashes of lightning upon impact, a form of battle cant that directs the advance of their kin. I had to look up battle cant just to see what it meant in this context, and I guess the best definition that I could find really that fits in with how it's written here, as that it's a kind of jargon or language within a group. So this is their way of pointing their brethren to a particular enemy unit on the battlefield that needs some attention. Now let's have a look at the Warscroll. So you can see they've got a movement 6, save of 4+, bravery 7, and 2 wounds, and out of that the movement really appeals to me. Having that 6-inch movement I think is really nice for these Stormcast Eternals. A lot of the models have 5, some like the Annihilators have 4, so having that extra inch makes a massive difference. And as you can see in this example, I've got them just under 18 inches away from an objective marker, and so usually with a 5-inch movement and then potentially another 6 if they run, that wouldn't be enough for a unit to get within 6 inches of that marker. So the great thing with these guys is they've got that 6 as a base. Then you can use in your movement phase at the double this command ability. That's going to allow you to just give them a guaranteed 6 extra inches of movement. That's 12 inches of movement, which is really nice on the battlefield when you're going after and trying to pinch away at the objectives and maybe still keeping your distance from the enemy as well. You've got lots of options with that movement range. Let's look at the weapons now. So we've got missile and melee weapons. The missile is a Stormcaller bow and the melee Stormblade. Pick a champion, one VIGILOR Prime, and they're going to get an extra 1 to their attacks characteristic, but otherwise the attack characteristic is 2, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, -1 rend, 1 damage. Nice and simple. Then you've got the melee weapon, which is the Stormblade. This has got a 1-inch range, and then the stats are the same as the Stormcaller bow. So these are pretty much an all-rounder there at range and up close. Nothing exceptional, but nothing bad either. But really, the VIGILORS are all about their ability called Navigators of the Storm. We'll look at that in a moment. And lastly, on the Warscroll, we've got the keywords. So you order Stormcast Eternals. Thunderstrike is the key one. Now they're going to explode on a 5+ instead of a 6, which is nice. And they've also got Justicar and VIGILORS. Let's have a close look at that ability then. So it tells us that in the shooting phase, if any wounds caused by attacks made with this unit's Stormcaller bows are allocated to an enemy unit, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks that target that unit until the end of that turn. The same unit cannot be affected by this ability more than once per turn. For me, this is the only reason to include these. It doesn't sound an awful lot, but adding 1 to hit rolls is really nice. It's going to prevent you having to use your all-out attack command ability, so it's going to save you a command point there, and so that's really awesome. We'll look at the points and assess whether or not they're worth the amount you have to pay to bring them in your army, but just having that free all-out attack, really, is great news. I think that's really a nice addition, and they're worth it for that. You've also got an option to split fire and attack 2 units, and as long as you only cause 1 damage on each of those units, then that ability is going to come into effect, so that's an option too, but you are only going to get 11 shots at the maximum when you've got the full 5 in the unit, so just be careful with that, because there is a chance you're not going to cause any, and I found with these, they don't cause an awful lot of damage, and really, when I hit with them, I'm only fishing for that 1 point of damage, and if I can get that, I can make their ability come into action. That's a nice little ability on its own, but it's when you combine it with abilities of other models that I think it becomes even stronger. And here I'll show you an example of using Krondys alongside them. The idea here is that in the hero phase you cast a spell with Krondys, and then you choose the Flash Freezing Blizzard. This is going to subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target a unit. Then in the shooting phase, you shoot that same enemy target and then hopefully get that 1 wound, and then you can add 1 to the hit rolls as well. Now, any attacks made against that enemy unit are going to be +1 to hit, which is brilliant, and then any wounds that go through, that enemy unit has now got a -1 to their save. So you've got a better chance of hitting them, and they've got a lesser chance of saving the wounds. Now bring a 3rd unit into play, and I like to bring in the Annihilators with the Grand Hammers. If you've got a Lord Imperator on the battlefield, then once per turn you can jump in a reserve unit like these Annihilators, and they can be 7 inches away from an enemy unit rather than 9, which is perfect. So they're going to come down, they're going to do some damage right away just for landing on the battlefield. Then if they make their charge, they can roll a number of dice equal to the value of that charge roll. Each 6 is going to do more mortal wounds on top of that. In your turn, you'll get to choose these to hit first, hopefully, and so that'll be a +1 to hit. So instead of hitting on 3s, they're now hitting on 2s. They wound on 2s anyway, which is really nice for the Grand Hammers. So a really nice amount of wounds potentially going through here, because you've got 10 dice to roll, which is always nice, hitting and wounded on 2s. Then you're going to apply a -2 rend to the enemy save roll, and that -1 on the save roll in addition to the rend that's come from the spell from Krondys. So now anything with a 4+ save is not going to be able to even make a save roll. So that's brilliant. Potentially they're going to be forced to use all-out defense if they want to keep that unit on the battlefield or give it a chance, and then they're only saving on 6s and they won't be able to use that all-out defense again in that phase. I think this combo is great fun to play, really cool to get it to go off, and you've got the 4 units all together, the Lord Imperator and the Annihilators working together to come in 7 inches, you've got the magic element from Krondys, then you've got the arrows coming in. I just think it's really fun, really thematic, and a great way to try out a little tactic on the battlefield. Let's have a look how it'll play out. So here you can see we've got some Troggoths holding down an objective, and then we've got VIGILORS, a 5-man group there, and they're just under 18 inches away. So they're in range, so that's really nice. They're also protected somewhat from that distance between them. So if the Troggoths wanted to move and charge, it's going to be quite difficult for them to make it there. Now you could put another unit in front of them just to screen them a little bit, give them that extra layer of protection, and then you could always push up as well just to prevent the enemy getting closer, and so having another cheaper unit in front is always nice. Now the Troggoths are pretty much going to have to engage those, and they can't get within range of the VIGILORS. Krondys is also within 18 inches, so his magic spell can go off if we need it, and so we'll do the magic first, then we'll shoot our arrows down, and then hopefully we'll get that +1 from just getting 1 wound if we can make it, and then we'll get the -1 to the save roll as well. We're also moving our annihilators into place. Now, you are going to move and shoot first, so you would put these in place before you actually make the shot, so there is a little bit of a gamble, but to be fair, you want to get these stuck in anyway. That +1 to hit is just going to be a bonus. But once they're within 7 inches, you make a roll, you make that nice 7-inch charge to get within ½ inch of the unit, and then you're in, so they're ready to do some extra damage on top of the mortal wounds they do when they land and charge. Now, their 3 to hit becomes a 2 to hit because we got that wound off from the Vigilors, so that's awesome. And then you've got the Troggoths who are saving on 4s normally, but now, because of the 2 Ren from the hammer, they're saving on 6s. Let's make that worse with an extra 1. Now they can't make a save roll because of Krondis' intervention with his wizard spell. So now let's have a look at the points and weigh up whether or not they're worth adding in there for what they can bring to the table. And they're going to be 170 points for 5 models. I think for that price it seems quite high, especially when you compare it to other models like, for example, the Praetors that can do mortal wounds on a 6. But that's not really what their role is here. These Vigilors are really there to buff the attacks of other units. They're essentially giving you free all-out attacks if they get the wound off each shooting phase, and if you've got 1 or 2 units and you split attacks between them, you've got potential to get across between quite a few units on the battlefield. And if there's some of them with a pretty low save, maybe a 5+ already, then you're going to be hitting them with a 6+ save. There's a good chance you're going to get that wound. And even with the -1 rend and the 1 wound or 1 damage, that's okay at range. That's going to just chip away at these enemy units as well, weakening them slightly, ready for the big hitters to get stuck in. So although I'd only include them really to get that +1 hit for the other units, they're really not that bad. But just remember, they're not there to do damage at range. You can choose other units for that. They're also okay in melee. The stats are exactly the same except for the range of the weapons. So if you've got them and they do have to get stuck in, there's a chance they'll do some damage. But, you know, they are going to take some too. For me, using screens with other units is the way to keep these protected. Try your best to keep them within that 18-inch range so they can get those shots off, or at least with enough range to move and shoot, and then have them maybe holding your own territory objectives and staying on that, and there's a good chance you're going to be in range of another objective as well. And that means you can keep shooting any enemy units that try and take that other objective, but also, in a pinch, if you have to get there quickly, you know you've got enough movement with that extra command ability to give you the guaranteed 6 extra movement to run there and maybe even contest it or take it. So I think they've got a lot of little options, but really it's just to buff attacks of other units that you want to be including this unit in your army. Let's have a look at how you can get hold of these and the prices then. So they're going to come in a box set of 10 miniatures, and that's exactly what I've got here, but I got mine in the Christmas Battle Box, the Battle Force for Stormcast Eternals, which I think was fantastic value. So if you can ever get that, that's definitely worth picking up. If not, you can get them for £40 as a box of 10. That's directly from Games Workshop, so don't pay that full price. You can save up to 20% by going to online retailers and, of course, supporting your friendly local game store. I've put some links in the description down below. They're affiliate links to Firestorm, Element and Wayland Games in the UK, where you can save up to 20% on all your hobby products, not just Warhammer, and you'll also be supporting me here on the channel as I get a small commission from any sale made. But of course, look after your friendly local game store. Here's mine, the Little Shop DVD and Games. They'll post across the UK, again making some great savings with them. But if you're local to Liskeard and Cornwall and can make it to the shop, I definitely recommend checking them out and showing them your support. There we go, that's the deep dive for the Vigilors taken care of, and I'm going to be working my way through all the other units that I've got for the Stormcast Eternals. If there's one that you're particularly interested in, let me know in the comments section below. I can bump it up the list and cover it sooner rather than later, and this is very similar to the series I did for Warcry when I started the channel, where I'd look at each fighter in focus, do a deep dive on the different warbands, but now I'm going to focus on each unit a little bit and see what we can do with it on the table. So if you're interested in watching more of this, please consider subscribing to the channel. That'd be awesome. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. That really helps get the video out there and show other people where they can find me and my channel. So that would be great. But for now, thank you for watching. It's been really fun to make this video and share some tactics for the Stormcast Eternals as I learn to play them on the battlefield, and I hope it's been helpful for you. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping me keep going with these daily videos and to help me create little mini-series like the series is that a word? Like this. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your help and support. And if you'd like to join the Patreon community, support the channel, you can find out more with the link below. Be awesome to see you there.